One thing we can do for frequently used macros is add a keyboard shortcut. I say for frequently used ones because if they're infrequently used, you actually won't remember the keyboard shortcut. So there wouldn't be any point in adding a keyboard shortcut to a macro that is used infrequently. But one macro that you might use a lot would benefit from having a keyboard shortcut because then you could activate it very quickly instead of having to go to View, Macros, list the macros, choose the macro and run. Now there are a couple of methods of actually assigning a keyboard shortcut to a macro. The first of those is actually when you record the macro initially. So if we go to Macros and Record Macro, you'll see in the Record Macro dialog box is a shortcut key option. Now all your shortcut keys begin Control plus a letter. And you simply enter that letter, go through the normal process of recording your macro, and that keyboard shortcut becomes the keyboard shortcut for that macro. If, however, the macro already exists, then that's not a problem either. We simply go to Macros, View Macros, and then you'll see all the macros that are in this workbook and in your global template and in any files that you have currently open. So I can see three: our format sheet one, the project with macro insert meeting. Now that exists in this current project, but there's nothing to stop us assigning a keyboard shortcut to the format sheet macro that belongs in the global template. In order to add that keyboard shortcut, we go to Options, and we can see there the description, which can also be changed here, and then a keyboard shortcut that we can add in here. Now we are a little restricted in what characters we can add in that we can only use the letters of the alphabet. So that's 26 possible characters. If I try to put a number in, for example, so Control+6 and say OK, that generates an error message. Control keys must be in the range A through to Z. So I am restricted to using the letters of the alphabet. Other slight restriction we have in a project is if you use a keyboard shortcut that already exists, that keyboard shortcut will continue to belong to that action and therefore will not carry out your macro. So that restricts us even further. So to do the formatting, I'm actually going to use Control and D. So I put D in, it doesn't matter whether you put uppercase or lowercase. OK, and then close. Now that macro now has a keyboard shortcut assigned to it. So all I need to do to make sure that it works is start a new task here of 3 days duration, and then select the task and run my keyboard shortcut, which was Control D. Now as we can see, nothing's actually happened because D has already been assigned to another action. So what we need to do is go and choose a letter that hasn't been assigned. So we go to View Macros, Format Sheet Options, and I'm going to replace the D with a Q. OK, close. Select my task, Control Q, and we can see the formatting then takes place, and the formatting for our task has then been changed to Arial 12. So despite the restrictions on the letters that can be used, firstly you have to use a letter, and secondly you have to use a letter that is not already assigned. Despite those restrictions, then having a keyboard shortcut for a frequently used macro is a very quick way of running that macro, because it means you don't have to add a ribbon icon. You don't have to go to the macros list.